Hey everybody, welcome to this month's edition of Civil Engineering Today. I'm Reed Brockman, and today I have with me Surveyor Extraordinaire Steve Dyer. Welcome.
Thank you, Reed. Appreciate inviting me.
You just got a big award.
I did, as a matter of fact.
Get?
Very excited about that. You know, for years I've been going to the MALSCE conventions, the Mass Association of Land Surveyors and Civil Engineers, and you know, at every yearly event they pass out a very nice calligraphy plaque to one surveyor every year who's contributed to MALSCE and worked with the profession and the associations to kind of make the gears churn and make things work. A very nice, you sit every year and you see other people get it, you go, oh, why not me, But it was a very nice honor. I was quite pleased by it. It's hanging up right in my living room, actually, right now. So.
Well, it's really well deserved.
Well, thank you
so
very much.
So you do lots of other things, too. You're with me on the Engineering Center Educational Trust.
I am. I've been doing that for a while. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, that represent MALSCE along with a few other surveyors on that committee, which is nice. Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about surveying and everything
Excellent.
about surveying.
That's good, because that's about all I know anything about. That's good.
And I know way less, like almost nothing.
Oh,
No, that's not true.
That.
I know.
I know about that.
But so I want to start with the basics. So it's funny, we run a competition called Future City Competition. And, And actually, one of the big awards in it is did they pay attention to surveying practices when they were building their city?
Oh, nice.
So when they're doing it, I tell the story about infrastructure, that once upon a time the earth was this big blue marble, and then we've carved it up and added and done. So I look at surveyors as like, you guys are like the truth. You guys are like the ones that like figure out what the earth is shaped like and what the properties are and who owns what. You guys, tell me a little bit about surveying in general.
Well, you kind of have to trust the math. To me, I get involved, I think, because there was a problem to solve. There was it's a mathematical, almost an trigonomic or geometric solution that needed to be made. And, enjoy making those solutions as you come through school. It's attractive to you, right? And that's what got me involved. That and the outside, to stay outside. So as you get involved, of course, like any of these older professions, let's call them, there's an internship and get involved. So you like to get new surveyors in and get them, entrenched in the rudimentary day-to-day activities and do the stuff that you don't want to do anymore because you get a little on you. But that's, I think, what needs to drive kids into the profession, I think, at this point, to tell them, you can be a little bit of a tree hugger out in nature. You are, enjoying it, it's fresh air, and you're solving a problem. You're doing something important. There's so much involved in just, walking around the street or walking around the woods with a rod in your hand or collecting this or that. This is a profession involved in dimensional and spatial measurement of real property, of what people own, of what developments are going to be, and where a building is or is going to be, where a highway is going to be. We can look around today at GPS units in cars on your phones. These are all driven by survey data, satellite geometry and positional accuracy. These are all driving forces in surveying.
Yeah, you have incredible tools that have just opened up. Like, tell me, what's it been like for like the past, only like last 10 years, everything, the world
seems
changed.
That way, doesn't it? When I started, again, we had 3-man crews. I'd come on as a rodman and you'd work 5 or 6 years, however the economics provided. They'd need another crew. They'd promote you to transit man. That was a big elevation. And eventually you'd get to be a crew chief and you'd be running the show, making the decisions and what to locate, how to locate it, the quality of the work and so forth. But then as technology came into play, we saw total stations, hit the top of the tripod.
Yeah, so maybe not everybody knows what a total
station
is.
Correct, yeah, so normally I think when you see older photos of classic surveyors who'd walk around in suits and top hats and do their work, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all delved in the trade, they'd have an instrument that was very optical, primarily glass and telescope nature equipment with measurable scales that they could measure angles with. And they actually use spider hair in the lenses.
Real spider hair.
Real spider hairs for the crosshairs, and they could use these for stadia measurements for distance and those types of things. And then as we come forward in time, you start to see those types of instruments, a lot of it through space programs and other scientific endeavors, start to improve, and we start to move electronics onto these. So now we put a battery in them, and the data is collected in an ASCII file, which I think everybody deals with, text file or an ASCII file these days, and downloads to a computer. So I work these days 90% of the time solo. I do most of my work alone. But I spent 25 years working on a two-man crew. And you work your way through the profession.
Now all of a
that way.
sudden you can go out on your own.
You can. It's not always appropriate. Certainly there's situations where I would have two-man with me if difficult situations, traffic concerns, safety.
Right.
And the quality of the job sometimes comes into play. But for the most part, if you're out in a parking lot or a wooded setting, you're locating wetlands flags or doing some staking, you can do a lot of this stuff solo with the proper robotic equipment and the prisms and so forth available today. It's very possible. The equipment's not cheap today, but nonetheless,
It's
it is
probably
possible.
a lot cheaper than it was a few years ago, though.
Well, it is coming down. Yeah, that's right. It is coming down in cost. But a good quality total station, electronics, robotic, the data collector you have in your hand and so forth as you walk around, will probably run in the $25,000 to $30,000 range or more.
So let me get it right. So you're walking around with the prism still?
Yeah, you have a prism on a rod,
right?
And a little clamp on that rod would hold a data collector. So you have basically a handheld computer.
So can it find you wherever you go?
Within a certain limitation. Most of these units work very well. They're all line of sight. So if you go behind a tree, it's not going to know you're there. It'll know about where you were.
It still has to be able to see it. So
it really does for most of these until we get involved in discussions with GPS, which of course is looking up rather than looking at a tripod. So those are a little more accommodating for line of sight.
GPSs would know elevations too, or just spots?
No, you can certainly, with the proper time and quality equipment, right number of satellites, you can get fairly good elevation data along with your GPS as well.
It's pretty amazing.
It is stunningly amazing. We use GPS fairly frequently, and we find that we can achieve with the proper conditions, not all the time, but you can get down to millimeter level elevations.
Millimeters, like I mean,
quarter
you
inch,
can't, right? You
eighth
can't.
inch,
yeah. That's like
right.
To me, that's
we're
like
2 or
super
3, yes,
microscopic.
that's what I mean. So 2 or 3 millimeters, something in that range.
Which is like incredible accuracy.
Stunning.
Like if you're just cutting a 2x4, nobody even thinks millimeters.
It's pencil width,
right.
pretty much pencil width.
Yeah.
Right. So
the saw blade is much wider than that.
It's come quite a distance. But then again, when you're downtown Boston, say you're on State Street and you put a new building up, it's high rise, driven piles, the whole deal, and you almost want to be that close.
Right.
Real estate's quite expensive.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to hit something.
Right. You don't want to be off an inch or two.
Right. But no matter what you're doing, no matter how much data you collect, there's the other half of it, is that somebody owns, pretty much, someone owns everything, right?
Yeah, I think we've probably parceled up everything. There may be some exceptions, certainly in the United States. What's not owned privately is owned by municipalities or government, sure. Yeah.
So how do you get that, how does that figure in?
The ownership aspects?
The ownership aspects, how do you translate that down into the right spots?
Well, that becomes a different area of the profession, the actual research, the registries of deeds, or say in Rhode Island, city and town halls would hold that data. There's a research aspect, and this is sometimes a difficult part for surveyors when they talk to the clients about timing and cost and budgets, because a lot of times if you're on a job site and there'll be a trailer there, say they're doing some sort of construction, and they're looking at the surveyors during the day, and they're saying, all right, he's been here 6 hours, and and then they get an invoice and it says
totally
12, and they go, where's the other 6 hours? And they don't see the time that you're in the registry, or you're pouring through old record books trying to find a legal description of the property, or you're sitting at the computer trying to calculate it and reconcile it with other abutting legal descriptions and try to find some aspects of truth before you end up in the field and try to find the real physical monuments.
What I've seen, the language in those things is something, if they're old enough, they can be like Shakespeare can look modern.
I love the classic ones. I have a desktop book at home, one of those coffee table books that is written by Don Wilson, a very well-known, these days lecturer, but he's a land surveyor, and I believe he's an engineer. He could even be an attorney. He's very well-known. He does a lot of lecturing these days. But it's legal descriptions I have known but could have done without. And it's a great little book, and it has descriptions that people would describe a piece of property they were selling to a son or daughter in very colloquial terms. And they'd say, a 200-foot radius around my old well. And of course, the well's gone. You can't
Right,
find it
right,
anymore.
right.
Or near the tree, to so many feet and such a distance to
Trees
the
don't grow
tree where
or fall.
near where John killed the bear. You know, and you do find them.
Thanks.
You do find those. You know,
found the
you're not
bear?
sure I want to go there. But you just find some of those old trees. They're still around, the bearing trees and so forth. So it's that art of it, of actually getting in the ground. I have another science hanging on my office desk at every job I've ever held, and now it's hanging at home in my little office. And it says, "The future belongs to the few of us still willing to get our hands dirty."
I gotta agree with that one.
And you know, you wish you could almost get that out to younger kids, high school students, and really get them to understand it. No matter what you do, there's very few people in the world today that really do want to do that are willing to get their hands dirty and contribute and do something worthwhile. And that's what's important.
Yeah, and surveying comes into almost there. Like, I spent the day today before I came here working on a handicap ramp.
Oh,
And
our nemesis sometimes. Yeah.
the world's not flat.
Oh boy.
The beginning point, just because there's only 5 steps coming down there, the ground, you're only coming down an inch a foot for a very
Right.
long distance. To come down
That's
that
right.
42 inches, it's 42 feet plus all the flats.
It's a long distance, isn't it? It's a long.
And the
you
world
look-
changes so much in that
I
little...
know. One of my handicap ramp experiences was in Braintree, and we had done one for a local car dealership at his place of business, and he needed a sign off. So I was there finishing up the inspection, and the handicap representative for the town, they had an individual that was supposed to come by and check this. So van pulls up, and oh great, he's here, and very nice middle-aged man in a wheelchair gets out of the van, and at that point this was new to me, and I wasn't even a party chief at this point. I was just there, holding the field book and saying, yeah, there it is. And I was stunned, but he got out of that van, he reeled over, and he had a smart level with him. Have you seen these?
Yeah,
the smart levels
I've
with the
counted those. I
with
love
the little
those.
digital levels you
Yeah.
stick in there. It reads out the slope, and he put that right. And I sweat. I mean, I could feel myself getting nervous, feeling it. And sure enough, it had to be fixed. I mean, but that's the level of what.
I said we were dropping
right
it this
out
morning.
there.
We were putting it out there because I
Don't
know
you
that
get a little
number may have
nervous?
4.77. Come on.
I know. And it can be a little crap,
4.6, yes.
like rough concrete. Oh, let me get that out of there. But it's so delicate with this sometimes. But rightfully so. Rightfully so. They need to be right.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, they really do. But they are sometimes our nemesis.
Yeah.
Then by locating them, drawing them on a plan is sometimes difficult, but they do need to be constructed correctly. So yeah, that's always a problem. Yeah.
So surveying, the courses, to become a surveyor, I mean, it's much more than just collecting the measurements. You were saying it's like, I know it's a lot of trigonometry involved in it and a lot of math involved in it. You're solving the math problems.
Yep.
And there's also, you have to understand a lot of the law and just the way your community works. And
Correct. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what goes into, what do you have to know?
Well, I think a lot has changed. Not only the equipment has changed over the years, but how we work and things have happened over the years that have driven changes in the regulations. Let's be honest. Regulations don't change on a whim. They're because of problems that exist. So they get tightened up over time. And now at this point, they're pretty regulated. So the state of Massachusetts would encourage people who want to be engineers or land surveyors to get a 4-year degree in that field, and then pursue some experience and take 2 8-hour written exams. So the way they've begun to slide this.
So you did say 2
2
8-hour
8-hour written and
exams.
oral. Actually, there's an oral aspect.
So is this the one of them the in training and one of them the final? or is
Correct.
this
So
two
we have an engineer in training, an EIT, or
Wait,
we have a
when do you take
surveyor in
that?
training.
Is that in college?
That's funny,
Or like
because
right after
it's a
college?
funny question, because I've found over the years that a lot of universities that do offer these programs are now encouraging their seniors to take the SIT or the EIT before they graduate. So they have
Right, I took it. I remember it was
Yeah.
a beautiful day, and it was spring
That's a great
fling that
idea.
day, and all
It's
the
fresh
bands
in
were
your
playing on
mind.
the quad, and I was
And you were
packing up
locked
to
in there.
take an exam that day on
Yeah,
that beautiful Saturday with a
That's
big
it.
case of books.
There you go. There you go. And what they do is if you have that degree, then maybe if you have that 4-year degree in a surveying curriculum in an approved school, you may have to spend 4 or 6 years of experience under a registered individual before you could sit then and take your professional exam.
So it's kind of a parallel to
There's
the
still that
engineers.
internship kind of built in, which is very important.
Oh, I think it's really important.
It really is. Now, if you say were able to get an associate's degree, you'd have 2 years of school. You may need 6 or 8 years of experience. You know, you have to check the chart. There's a number of different categories you can apply. So you always have to, read the lines and check.
I haven't studied what it is with surveyors that much, but there's a lot of different ways. I think there's 5 different ways, and within them there's, sub-parts.
That's correct, because we all come from a different place,
different background, right?
And that needs to be understood too. I applied under a 12-year application. I had sufficient semester hours of surveying concentration at Northeastern and Wentworth. My background was really as a pre-med student. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Biology from Boston University.
So you came, how did this path happen?
Everybody said, I started working summers with a friend of mine from BU, who was also in the pre-med program. And his father was treasurer at a local survey, or an engineering firm really, that had a survey aspect in Boston. So that's how I started, doing summers, working with Rick, and off we went.
And then, and then you're just like,
I said,
really
boy,
like this
is
stuff.
fun.
So what's the fun stuff? What's your favorite
Well, for me
things
at
about
that time, and I had spent 6, 7 years at Boston Latin School, went right on to Boston University, and to me it was, wow, I can go outside and I can actually work and enjoy myself, and fresh. That to me was key. I had worked for one summer at a seat cover company down by Fenway Park, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most distressing experiences of my life. Inside, clatter of machines all day and dusty. It was not something I looked forward to. And I did well at BU, but let's be honest, I didn't have the 3.8s or 3.9s you need to get into med school. I did okay.
Right.
But again, it wasn't one of those things that I broke my heart about. Medicine is a very cutthroat business at that level,
especially
of
at that
undergraduate.
age. I just can't.
Very cutthroat, and I was not distressed by it. My parents may have been, but I was not distressed by it. I really looked forward to getting up and going out every morning.
I knew I didn't want to enter
even
that
in the
world.
winter. I really just stay warm.
I'm
and learn to
exactly
deal
with
it.
you. I love just going outside because I do the bridge inspections. I'm
That's
outside,
right.
and I
That's
try
right.
to stay outside.
That's right.
And even in the middle of winter, I will take
Even
that
on my
cold.
even on my checks, it says I'd rather be outdoors. So that was really the driving passion for me to get into it. But again, you need to sit back, and you have to understand that at that point in your career, you may have a child or two. You're newly married. Now you gotta keep a job, and then you did the same thing. Did some night courses at Wentworth or Northeastern, and you build those. It takes years to do that, and that's what you do. And, you just get it done. Each state is a little different now. Rhode Island recently required a 4-year degree.
Yep.
Massachusetts currently does not mandate it. There is a section of the new regulations that is absent, Section 4, and I believe that might be reserved for just such an inclusion of education requirements for registration and for re-registration.
Right. Same thing. Do you guys have continuing education that every year you
In
need
Rhode
to take?
Island, it's
in Rhode Island,
required.
you do. Same
Correct.
thing. Massachusetts.
Right.
Massachusetts is kind of lax in some
well,
spots, but
well, it's getting there. They're getting there,
Yeah.
and I think they want to be very careful going forward. Of course, the governor has had a stay on any new legislation as well, and I know the board has been talking about this anyway, but they can't do anything about it until that stay is lifted.
Yep.
So.
Is there a good pipeline of surveyors coming up? Are young people getting interested?
I was quite encouraged at the last MALSCE convention that we had in March down in Plymouth that there were, to me, quite a number of new faces in the room, and that was good.
Oh, that's good.
However, when you look at the broad picture, every once in a while through Tessit, we will get a printout of registrants throughout the years. And the current list I have goes back to 2003. Now, the number of engineers has gone up from like 15,000 to 16,000. It's gone up a little bit over that period of time. Number of surveyors has gone down from maybe 1,200 to maybe 980 or something. So
That's a big
dropping. And there's maybe reasons. become obvious that it's more difficult to get younger kids entrenched in this, to get them excited about it. So we try to go out and do outreach
Right,
through the local
especially,
schools.
I think it's a great selling point that it's outdoors.
I try, you know. We do a Trigsar competition that we've tried to do, and that helps get the kids going. But it's difficult sometimes to you know, keep them interested rather than just a summer job. Now what am I really going to do for life?
Right.
So it's a little hard.
What schools? So Wentworth and Northeastern, I know. Is there other schools that around here that
Wentworth and Northeastern offer certificate programs. Excuse me. University of Maine does offer a 4-year program.
Oh, a
I
surveying
think that's
degree.
the closest one, correct. The Community College of Rhode Island offers a certificate program up to an associate's degree, I believe. They're few and far between. Each state does have some sort of program at some school.
Right, right.
But they may just be certificate programs. Very few have 4-year degree programs.
So it's an important thing. So I know that we've got to wrap up. The show's, this is amazing, it just like flies by.
It does, yeah.
But, so I want to encourage anybody that's out there that has any interest. Is there any place they can look for information on surveying and maybe
Well,
get in
the
touch?
MALSCE website is a good place to start.
So what is that?
I believe it's
MALSCE?
MALSCE.org,
That totally makes sense.
correct? And you can also hook into that through Tessit's website. We have a connection there.
Yep, so that's engineers.org.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. I figured you had repeated that a number of times on
Yep.
the show. So
Always have to. And I know that's all the time we really have, but
Yep.
I want to thank you for coming in today, and it was great talking
Appreciate
to you.
doing it. It's always
Yeah,
good to
thanks
see you.
a lot.
Appreciate it very much. Nice. Good
And
to see you.
thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next month on Civil Engineering Today.